This is Peter Godinez with your pivot journey. Yes, I am your host. And we took a little break away from this, but when you talk about having special personalities on this particular interviews, there's one person who I trained with at Cal Poly San Luis Obispo who actually started off at Bloom. And I am excited about what has to say. And that's Terry Bauer. Terry Bauer, why don't you just say hello and get your face on the camera here?
All right. Well, hello, Pete. I appreciate this opportunity to talk with you about some of my experiences, both at Bloom and at Cal Poly, and as a teammate of yours.
I was so privileged, Terry. I want you to know. So with that, I we're doing a little bit of a different theme here, and we're doing the aha moments. And for those of you who don't know what an aha moment is, it's a moment of sudden realization, an inspiration, insight, a recognition, or a comprehension. And so I think Terry's got a great journey, and we're going to begin the journey his time at Bloom High School, where he had a lot of talented people who he actually associated with. And then what happened was it's like God slid the continental United States, and then you had a bunch of your brothers and sisters just slide into San Luis Obispo. So Terry, I want to ask you the first question is, what were some of your favorite, best aha moments while you were at Bloom High School?
Um, I would say my first aha moment was when I came from a graduating class of about 26 students from eighth grade and to a freshman class of about 1,400 students. Obviously, it was a huge shift from what I was used to. And and even though I had two older brothers that attended Bloom High School ahead of me, I still wasn't prepared for that moment of walking onto campus with so many other individuals. And I remember sitting in my homeroom class, first day of actual school. We had a little orientation, but first day of school, and the homeroom advisor or teacher came up and said, "Look around because one in four of you will not be here on graduation day." And I looked next to me down one row and down the other row and started counting 1, 2, 3, gone, 1, 2, 3, gone, 1, 2, 3, gone. And I'm like, "Oh, that's a lot of people that won't be here." And of course, for various reasons, some would move, some would, any reason that anyway, the numbers were one in four. And at that time, that homeroom teacher says the best thing you can do is get involved in some kind of club, some kind of activity, because people that get involved in those kinds of things, tend to be ones that stick around and make it, to walk across the stage. So it was during that very first homeroom class that I was like, "Ooh, this is a big difference from where I've been," and um, the the consequences, of course, ratcheted up, at that point. So it was a nice introduction and really got me thinking about ways that I could maintain myself both there and then moving on.
Now I know you played football your freshman year, so I know there was a bit of a aha moment there, Terry. Why don't you tell us about that transformation? Because remember, you were tough like a football player, but you could actually run long distance. So tell us about that one.
Yeah, and a lot of people don't know this, of course. I didn't run cross country my freshman year in high school. I did play football, and my next older brother, Rusty, ran on the cross country team and on the track team. And I thought, he's doing cross country. I'll try something different. So I went out for the football team. Uh, we always did a big loop around our campus for a warm up, and I always find myself, trying to be up in the front of that, and coming in as one of the, one of the top finishers all the time. And there was one of my football coaches, and also I believe he was a baseball coach, Ernie Turner, said, "You ought to think about going out for track. I'm sure the track team could use you." Um, I enjoyed the football season with him, but he encouraged me to go out and run. And of course, I did run track that same freshman year, and got an opportunity, of course, my first opportunity to meet Coach Steve Miller, who definitely had a positive impact on both my high school and collegiate careers.
No, that is amazing. Did you find there was any similarities between cross country and football? Obviously, the chance of breaking a femur in football are a lot greater than cross country, but did you see some similarities between the two?
Absolutely. The teamwork was one thing, of course, that I noticed right away. With football, all the various positions, all having to kind of gel together and give you your best opportunities as a team. And of course, I noticed that in track and field as well that first year. Even though very individual in a lot of your performances. Still the results of your performances added up with the results of others, but that team concept of everybody pulling together was a large part of the football and the track and field programs at Bloom High School.
You mentioned somebody who I look up to very closely, and that's Coach Steve Miller. Do you remember the first time you had a chance to meet this? First thing come mind, gargantuan of a personality profile. Maybe I should look that word up, Terry, in case it means something negative, but I mean it only positively. Do you remember, and I know it's hard to remember details, but do you remember your first impression when all of a sudden this guy is standing before you? Do you remember that moment?
I do. And I had met Coach Miller, because my brother was competing on the team. So I would go watch, the track meets. And I, of course, had an opportunity to meet him before I even went to Bloom High School. But I remember it was either the first or second track meeting, of the year. And we were sitting there, and we could easily have 100 people on our team any given year. So I'm guessing there's probably about 100 people sitting there, and there wasn't one person that wasn't paying attention to what Coach Miller was saying. It was the most attentive group I had, ever seen. I had finished up, a large part of my freshman year and had been in classes where, paying attention for some wasn't always happening. But yet, here, 100 people sitting there, and you could hear a pin drop. And Coach Miller was just, of course, letting us know, his thoughts. And I remember, he's standing underneath all the banners from our district championships. And, at one time he points up to the banners, and, just talks about the success that the teams have had. And I remember him saying that, you know, you're going to be good, and you're going to be good, and you're going to be good, and you're going to be good. And, each person in their own event, in their own area of expertise. But it was because of that we were going to win. It was because of everybody, being the best that they could be, that we were going to have some success. And like I said, he just pointed up to the banners and says, we can't help it. We can't help it. You put in the work, you make yourself strong, and be committed to this team, and we're going to win. And I was like, yep, that makes sense. Count me in. Really um, was my first real strong feeling about being an important part of, of a larger group. And that was a good feeling to have.
You mentioned winning. Uh, you and your brothers from Bloom, who I got a chance to know, you guys won a good amount of meets, and sometimes you would do more than just win. Bloom would just dominate. What was that like being a part of such a team in such an environment?
Um, I certainly think it brought the best, out in us, of course. Um, my sophomore year, after having not run cross country my freshman year, um, I, of course, abandoned football to pursue more, more running, and joined the cross country team. Now, Coach Steve Miller was not our cross country coach at that time. He had been the cross country coach, but Don Slota was our coach at the time. They worked together in track and field. They both knew one another well. They both helped one another out in terms of the coaching. But in that program, my sophomore year, we started winning as a team. And it was interesting because on a lot of cross country teams, you would have a 1 through 7 runners pretty much, consistently, or, more or less, meet after meet. But our particular team, our 7th runner one week could be our first runner the next week. And, our 3rd runner one week, could be the first runner the next week. And so we were always, competing with one another to be the number one runner on the team. And if somebody was having a rough day, there was always somebody there to help kind of fill in. And so we won our first few meets, won some dual meets, won some invitationals. And as the season went on, we just kept winning. And we really grew with that. We wanted to keep our streak going. We didn't want to see it end. We continued to train hard and support each other. And we finished that season winning the state championship and not losing a meet all year long. And that's when, this is the end of cross country, my sophomore year, where I'm like, this is pretty fun. I think I can enjoy these people that, we sweat together, we hurt together, and we win together. And that was a great experience to be part of.
No, and I want to just build on what you're saying, meaning that this all actually started when, again, Jan Johnson wanted to have a Bloom High School Zoom call, and it had, the three main coaches, of which one of them was, Coach Miller. But what a magical time. And, if I could just mention some names, Terry, jump in if I forget, but obviously it was you and John Capri, Jeff Small, I mean, James Patton. I'm going to forget some people. But just some of the people that were on that Zoom call for Bloom, uh, did you ever think that all of a sudden all of these personalities, including yourselves, were all of a sudden going to make this decision to come to this little small farm town called, San Luis Obispo, and make history, the way we did? But did I miss any of the personalities? I know I'm going to get some hate.
Yeah, well, there was Eddie Tate. Yeah, there was a few others. George Carter.
Yes.
There was a few others that came this way, and excuse me, most of them were a little bit ahead of me. I was always a bit of an underclassman with the group that I spent a lot of time with. So when Coach Miller came out to California, I still had another year left at Bloom High School, but or even 2 years. But I was fortunate enough that Coach Miller kept in touch with me. I was also very fortunate to know some of the names that you mentioned, like Jeff Small and James Patton, who I was very close with in high school, and ultimately very close with in college as well. And so staying in touch with that, I thought, what a great opportunity to continue uh, down that path of being on successful teams, because the high school teams that I was part of, both in cross country and track and field, experienced a lot of success. And I knew wherever I went to college that I wanted to experience that same kind of success. And knowing Coach Miller and knowing some of my teammates that came out in front of me, um, there was no question where I wanted where I wanted to be, and where I still am, thankfully. Really, really pleased to still be here in San Luis Obispo and enjoy this beautiful place. So I feel very, very fortunate that all those pieces fell into place.
No, and I just want something popped in my head, Terry, that I need to make sure Ron Martin gets acknowledged because I know that, that he is a critical person to the whole thing. So sorry I didn't remember your name, Coach Ron, at that moment. But I hearing Jeff Small's description of why he chose San Luis Obispo, he got a call from Coach Miller. And he said, yes, 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 I'll go. But then he goes and looks at a map and sees it's near a beach and going, oh, yes, this sounds like it's going to be a good time. Were there any other things besides the fact that you had somebody as incredible as Coach Steve Miller saying, hey, Terry, I'd like you to come out to the West Coast? Were there some other factors about this little small area on the map that said, maybe I will go here?
Yeah, of course, I knew nothing about San Luis Obispo at the time that Coach Miller came out here, and then keeping in touch with Jeff and James. They were telling me about all the wonderful, things that San Luis has to offer, and I was able to come out for a visit. And of course, when I came out for a visit, I got to go to Montaña de Oro and just around the area. And yeah, it was an easy decision to want to come here. Uh, you mentioned Ron Martin. Yes, Ron Martin was certainly very instrumental in high school, in all of our team aspects. The coaching staff at Bloom was top notch, and not only in track and field and in cross country, but in many sports. Really feel very fortunate that being um, cultivated in that environment early on led to coming to Cal Poly, where you know those kinds of experiences were just further built, and now the greatest of memories for the times that I had both at Bloom and at Cal Poly.
All right, I'm going to ask you a really tough question. So brace yourself on this one. I know you had a lot of memories of your time at Cal Poly, but if I force you to pick out one memory that you could share with this audience that you hold dear to this day, can you give us that one, Terry?
No, I can't. There's no way I can narrow down the experience here for me to one particular event. I was fortunate enough to room with a lot of different people here at Cal Poly. When I started off as a freshman, I roomed with Jim Schenkel. I roomed with
Oh,
um, Jim Schenkel, Paul Medvin, Dave Albritton, Bill Weed, all,
oh
just
man.
some of the most, diverse people, um, with all kinds of different ideas and strengths and goals and aspirations. but in each one of those roommates, I also found some commonalities,
Mm.
and the commonalities of of the dedication, of the commitment, of the wanting to be part of a larger group, a team. Um, they all possess those as well, and they didn't just it didn't end with track and field. That obviously was a big part with that, but it went on beyond that. Each of those roommates had these goals and desires in other areas that were very different from one another, but yet took some of those same qualities to make them happen. And that, of course, once again, is Coach Steve Miller. He always has said that if all you get out of this track and field is learning how to throw, jump, run, whatever it was that you did, then you really missed out on the bigger part. And to me, that bigger part was those traits that we develop that help us not only be part of one area of joy and memories, but also branching out into other individual areas as well. But one particular moment, I would be hard pressed to nail it down to one moment. It's more of a culmination of all those experiences together that um, that are the fondest memory, of that time at Cal Poly.
You nailed it, Terry. Honestly, I pressed her for one, and you gave me a better answer that I could have possibly imagined.
Well,
So, if you took your Bloom experience, your Cal Poly, okay, you've had the success academically, athletically, in both areas. Now it's time to choose a career. Given all that you learned, what was your decision to what you're doing now?
um, I started at Cal Poly as a PE major, something that they don't even have anymore, of course. Um, but they had a PE major for coaching and teaching. So I feel like I knew all along that that's what I wanted to do. But also during that time, I did a lot of landscaping. I did landscaping in high school, and I did landscaping here at Cal Poly with Terry Gibson, one of my teammates. He was a distance runner as well, you remember. And so I had these two things that I really enjoyed. But I did, start the school to become a teacher, and never lost that. After my 4 years of competing, I was not done with school yet, but I started coaching out at Morro Bay High School, and I really enjoyed that experience of working with other individuals. I knew it wasn't the same as teaching, because on a team, those people want to be there. Obviously, in a classroom, you have everybody that needs to be there. And so um, during that time of coaching, I really felt like this is what I would like to do as a career. At the time, there was a glut of teachers, though, and
Hmm.
some of my teachers at Poly were recommending to students, hey, is that there might be something else right now that you might be interested in that you should pursue, because this teaching thing right now is not, there's just not there's no jobs right now. And they, in some ways, were trying to discourage people, and I shouldn't say discourage, or to encouraging people to choose other paths. Um, but I coached there for those years, and really fell in love with working with students and athletes, and went back to school, finished my teaching credential, and then got my teaching job that I still hold today, out in Guadalupe. And it's been 26 wonderful years. And a lot of those lessons that I learned both in high school and in college are the same lessons that I'm trying to pass on to my students. And it's been a joy making those connections, just as in high school and college, making the connections with my teammates, to making connections with the students now, and encouraging them in the same way that I was encouraged, to, work hard, to, earn that success that you want, and um, to treat others well along the way, to understand that we're all part of something bigger than us, and putting all those pieces together, and you know enjoying each other, and making those memories is something that I've enjoyed, that I try to pass on to my students and athletes, because of course I still coach cross country and track and field as well. So um, I feel very fortunate to have gotten into this career, and have really um, just thoroughly enjoyed all the people that I've met, and all the memories that have been created over this time.
Oh, excellent. And we're about running out of time here, Terry, but I saved the best for last. And one of the things Coach Miller continues to talk about in his interviews of his 51-year marriage to Suzanne Miller. And I know you have a special bride. And would you give us a little introduction into who she is? So, we're paying homage to how much was put into making sure we went the distance in that area, Terry. So,
And how she could put up with me for as long as she has, is certainly something to be recognized. My wife, Julie Bauer, is an educator also. She's up at Cal Poly now, teaching in the School of Education, teaching teachers. And she did that after 23 years of elementary school teaching. She has been a wonderful partner. We are coming up on our 30-year anniversary in August, so I'm really excited about that. And I would like to say that we make a good team. She supports me in those areas that I need support, and I support her in the areas that she needs support. And that 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 same theme of teamwork, even comes through in our marriage, because we all pull our weight in different areas. Um, we have two wonderful children that we're very proud of, and just feel joy in the experiences that we've had together.
I think that was a good way to end this, Terry. Thank you for your time. And I got to say, Terry, I think you're saying there's something really magical about the two Zoom calls we did together. We're trying to put our finger on it, but through these interviews, Terry, with all our other fellow teammates, we're actually telling a wonderful story. And so I thank you for your time. And for those who are watching this, we thank you for watching this series. And we do look forward to doing another interview with another brother or sister of Terry's in mind. So, with that, Peter Godinez, your host of Your Pivot Journey. Until next time.